My first passionate point is that you need to decentralize AI. Even though AI is on my job description, I can't be the AI guy. And I don't think most agencies or groups or web development shops, you can't have a singular person. It could be in their title, but Andy needs to understand AI and have some ownership of it. And Dustin needs to have ownership and responsibility, and Ryan, and all the way down the line.
Hello and welcome to another episode of AI for Your Business with Modern Logic. I'm Andy, and with me again as always is Dustin. This week we talked to one of our best friends, Travis Adney from Lawrence Schiller, and we have a really interesting discussion about how AI is impacting his industry of advertising and marketing, and also prognosticate on what the future of AI is going to look like. I hope you stick around. It's really going to be great.
And after the great episode, if you need some help with AI, either implementing it, bringing it into your business from a thought leader perspective, or automating routine and manual processes, we're always here to help. You can find us at modernlogic.io, and you can find more episodes of the podcast at modernlogic.io/podcast.
All right, I'm really excited to bring to the program today Travis Adney. He's the Director of Innovation at Lawrence Schiller and also the Managing Director of the new office in Minneapolis. Travis, we're so happy to have you here, our first guest on the program. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Lawrence Schiller?
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dustin, for having me on, and Modern Logic as a whole, and I appreciate the introduction. So, as you mentioned, I'm Travis Adney, our Director of Innovation, specifically the Managing Director of our Minneapolis office. And we're a full-service marketing and advertising agency. So that's digital tactics, that's traditional tactics. I think the perspective that I can bring today in the world of AI is where does that intersect? And that is, it's hard to understand what a Director of Innovation does, but a lofty, buzzwordy term. But my role specifically is figuring out where marketing and technology are intersecting. And at those collisions, like what types of strategies, what types of advantages, unique opportunities can I create for our clients and then also for our staff. My role specifically is pieces of 5 different categories. It would be a little bit of business development. How do you grow an agency, especially in the world of a lot of technology? I do a lot of client consultation. So that's understanding where clients are at as they approach marketing and advertising to increase reach, to elevate their brand. On the digital side of things, how do you elevate that, especially in the world of AI? With our products and our processes on the internal side of the house, we need to constantly be better and sharpen our weapons a little bit to make sure that we're competitive. And our brand promise is that we outthink and we outdo. And so to do that, you need to have the best available tools in order to deliver on that promise. And then a lot of my work in the last couple of years has been solely devoted to AI in a way of how do we empower our staff to be able to be dangerous in this area. It's no longer a nice to have. Of course, as you gentlemen talk about, it's a necessary thing to have, and it will continue to be the lifeblood moving forward for most agencies. I think it's really interesting when you look at a full service agency like ourselves. We started in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's where we're headquartered out of. We have our roots there. We service the larger part of the entire Midwest, and we're really excited about opportunities here in the Minneapolis market to grow and expand our relationships and our partners. And Modern Logic has been an excellent partner. I think we'll plug here in a second some of the AI work that we're doing collaboratively, because I think that the years to come are going to be really exciting.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks. And we have been working on some AI projects together, and it's a blast. One is just literally kicking off this week. That's great. I feel like, man, you have your finger in about 20 different pies, and all of them have technology as an element. And AI is just coming like a tidal wave across all of those. I'd just love to hear, maybe starting with, you mentioned those internal ways you're empowering your team with AI. What's one of your biggest successes, maybe, or biggest challenges there?
Yeah, there's probably been just as many challenges as there's been big wins, but that's because there's no playbook to this type of thing. And anyone that says that they have it figured out, I think they're full of what? And I think that there isn't a single linear roadmap to implementing this, especially in an industry like ours, in the marketing and advertising space. So my approach specifically has been, for the last 2 years, we need to fundamentally understand how AI works and what it is. Not to the level of understanding algorithmically how things work, because that's not really the type of work that we do. Modern logic, sure, that I think that makes a lot of sense. But again, those intersections of where is it going to present itself in the work? And so we have multiple departments. We call them disciplines at the agency. And we have a research and insights team. We have creative folks that are designing and writing. We have PR folks. We have account folks. We have video and photography. We have a whole digital team. And of course, marketing and advertising. We have media strategy and placement. And so those are a lot of different functions, a lot of different people. We have really great leaders in all of those areas. One, I think that it's important for the leaders of those areas to be empowering their teams in their own way. My first passionate point is that you need to decentralize AI. Even though AI is on my job description, I can't be the AI guy. And I don't think most agencies or groups or web development shops, you can't have a singular person. It could be in their title, but Andy needs to understand AI and have some ownership of it. And Dustin needs to have ownership and responsibility, and Ryan, and all the way down the line. Yeah, it just becomes, you can't be told exactly what to do. And so for the last 2 years, as I've been mentioning, we're doing the education series where every month I was really starting at ground zero. What is AI? What isn't AI? How does it work? What are the inputs in order to not get your garbage outputs? What is human in the loop? What are all these terms that you're going to hear? Because there's this whole new vocabulary that we're working with nowadays with generative engine optimization, answer engine optimization. There's new products, there's new services. And so education was the first piece, Andy. And then from there, I tried to spread as many resources across our agency as possible. So first and foremost, and the most important one, was our approach to security and confidentiality. And so we have official documents that outline do's and don'ts, how-tos in terms of using generative AI in ways that we can help protect our clients and protect ourselves. Best practice, knowledge-based type stuff, effective prompting strategies, effective prompting structures. These are skills that are foreign.
This is amazing. I feel like each one of these topics could be an entire podcast episode. In fact, we have talked a little bit about prompting guides and so forth.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I have any question here? Did you have any challenges as you rolled out this material with people just not picking it up or not connecting to it? One of the things that I found when I'm out doing workshops and showing other leaders is they've got day jobs. And so breaking into their mindset and saying, hey, you need to change how you're going to operate requires oftentimes a lot more concrete, hands-on, practical demonstration and experience and repetitive rollout, whereas some places that we work are 40, 50-year-old companies, and you may have one or two people on the leadership team that are actually interested, and the rest of them just eye roll and move along with their day. Unless the CEO is cramming it down their throat, and then they eye roll even harder, but just not at the meeting table in front of you.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're definitely onto something, Dustin. I think you'll have a very evident example of whether you hired the right staff, because if they're not adopting, then they're probably not the right type of people for a firm like your guys and a firm like ours. We pride ourselves on, we're going to use the best available technology, and we're going to continue to have competitive advantages. And if AI is something that they're giving you friction or resistance on, then I think it becomes very evident of that person that it's not something that they're willing to grow and learn and develop. And I think there's a fundamental issue there if that doesn't work. But I'd be lying if I said it was super easy and it was super smooth. I think you have to continually talk about it. It has to be a conversation every single day. It can't just be something that you schedule in as a meeting. And I think it's a paradigm shift too. I really like to use the example of, for the last 20 so years-ish, we're so used to using keyword queries with search engines. So if you have a problem, you give it maybe 2 or 3 fragments of an idea, and you're hoping Google's going to do the work on your search engine results page to get you what you need. And that's the paradigm shift of, now you need to be conversational with generative AI to help describe your problem, almost as if it is a human, almost as if you hear the analogies of treat it like an executive assistant or an intern. And that's a whole different way of working. And so technology aside, it's a workplace change, and that's why you need buy-in at all levels, Dustin, like you're talking about. Our CEO is passionate about it, our president is passionate about it, our leadership team, and that trickles on down to each of the discipline leaders as well.
I had an observation quick, because you said earlier that everyone needs to be bought in and working on it.
Yeah.
And yet, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're a leader of a small business, they may not have a director of innovation. It seems like you're pivotal in that you're the starting point that has triggered the ability for people to get in there. Because I have friends who, like at the university, have been told, got to use AI, got to use AI. And they're like, they're not using it correctly and they're getting terrible results. And they're like, what is this? And so they're already burned out and disillusioned.
Yeah.
And how long has there been a director of innovation? Is this a new thing with AI, or is your company literally just always had that attitude?
We've always had the attitude. We haven't necessarily always had the role. I think that was just something my skills naturally gravitated towards. I do sympathize for those examples, Andy, of your friends that are at these small organizations. Because I'd say far and beyond, I understand AI at a very technical level, but more than anything, I'm an AI cheerleader, or I'm a technology cheerleader. I'm trying to keep morale high. I'm trying to, and this gets into kind of some deep psychological stuff here that I don't know if we'll get into today, but there's so much fear mongering out around the world about AI. There's a lot of burnout, like you said, with AI, and AI can become a very toxic thing, and it can become just an absolute boat anchor to an agency or to a technology firm, because it's all you hear about every day. There's a lot of days that I go home and I've spent 8 to 12 hours talking about AI, and so I don't want to see those two letters at all when I go home. And of course, you open up LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you'll see
our
it.
podcast talking about AI, basically, right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the dark undersides of where AI is right now, is how beautiful it is, how incredible it can improve your processes, but also at a certain point, enough is enough when you're talking about it.
Where should you use it wisely and where shouldn't you use it is just as important. And
Right.
one of the other things we see with AI adoption is a lot of people have used it poorly and then assume that the results, those poor results they get because they used it poorly, are indicative, and they ask, why is this so great? Why is everyone trying to force it? It clearly produces crappy results.
Sure.
And I think that gets to your education component, which is, here's how to use it well. And how to use it well is parallel with how to use it wisely. And I think the first step is to really realize that if you're getting poor results out of these things, you're probably not using the tool correctly. Instead of, it's really easy to point at the tool and say the tool is crap. And I think in that friction isn't really helping us, those of us who are really trying to help others adopt AI, both internally and externally, because we're fighting against that friction where they give it maybe one or two sentences and they get an average answer and they're like, this thing isn't that bright, right? Whereas I tell people all the time, my average prompt is 100, 200 lines or 1 or 2 pages long.
Yeah.
And the results you get out of that are significantly better.
Sure.
Not
Or
that
if you're
it's
talking to
perfect,
people, if you're talking to people who haven't really used it at all, and their only experience might be like late night talk shows where AI is like a punchline.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it generated something goofy looking. Right, here's someone had a baby with, and then it's this outrageous result.
Fingers, right?
Extra fingers, right?
Yeah, or they're
And
reading
so-
an article about how it's going to take their job and destroy the world, or how much water it uses, or...
I'd love to dig into both of those questions with you. Maybe one is, okay, so how do clients view AI? Does it excite them if they find out that AI is part of your process? Does it scare them? Are they coming to you saying, we need AI in our process, can you help? What's that story like?
I think I've seen a shift in that even in the last 2 months. I would say more than the last 2 to 4 years. It was relatively quiet on the client side, I would say. And that's because maybe clients were doing the sit and wait approach to see what happens. But more than anything, we should be bringing that as being the strategy folks, or being the ones that truly understand how this works. And again, that's part of my role, is to bring me into those conversations with clients. I think over time, the fear has had a steady decline, which is good. And I think that we're probably at the level of adoption now where it's curiosity. I wouldn't necessarily call it necessity on our clients' behalf. But if you flip that lens over from client side to like industry, or if I'm looking at other people like myself or anybody in our agency looking at their peers in the industry, that's all that's being talked about. It's every single day. This is the conversation. But on behalf of our clients, we have a couple of different things that we would like to do. One, we would like to improve our internal capabilities so that they're receiving the benefit of AI. And then secondly, call it merchandising or calling it like actual products, services. But there are things that AI now are going to require an agency to provide. Things that I'm really passionate about are figuring out. For the longest time, SEO was the largest focus for a lot of our clients. And now we're in the era of GEO and AEO. And for those that don't know, that's generative engine optimization and that's answer engine optimization. And that's because shifts of, again, we were in that Google search engine SERP world. And now we're in more of a, instead of you're going to Google it, you're going to chat GPT it. You're going to AI it.
Yeah.
And our brands still need to be visible. Our brands still need to show up in any of those conversations because they are legitimate conversations with automated tooling. And so those are things that we want to make sure that we have solutions for our clients. Just a few other things, Andy, really quick, would be custom web development. Traditionally, custom web development took a lot of man hours and took a lot of coding and took a lot of processes and structures and technology stacks to make all these things fit together really nicely. And AI has helped that a little bit of clients can come to us with a very generic problem and we can loosely prescribe AI as a more general solution to help with some of those problems. And so I think clients enjoy that type of problem solving. And then lastly, the beast of working in marketing and advertising is we create this incredible campaigns, these brilliant concepts. We place it, we have the strategy so it reaches the consumer. But the thing that nobody really likes to talk about is reporting on that and telling clients how successful it is or where we need to be optimization. And that's just a bunch of data and numbers. And AI has significantly helped us find all of the places where we need to grab reporting metrics and have a single source aggregation of that. And that's been probably by and large our biggest efficiency in terms of how many human hours does it take to do a certain thing. The reporting and the analysis and the statistical crunching of numbers, that's where AI has been a really great partner for us.
Cool.
Yeah, pull something out from a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
talking about how marketing is interfacing with the world. I think with these, our last episode was partially on AI-enabled browsers. And talking about AEO and GEO, we're going to, I think, rapidly see a world where the average consumer interaction with a brand is their AI is talking to your AI or your website or your technology. And it's going to elide your ability to advertise, your ability to position the brand. And so what happens when you're not even opening a website anymore, or even a search engine, you're opening up your AI and saying, hey, I need you to go buy me some donuts and book me a flight, and I'm going to go walk the dog, right? We're nowhere near that level of autonomy now, but we just saw this week, for instance, Target announced a deal with ChatGPT to integrate ChatGPT agents with their shopping experience. So you'll be able to give it maybe a grocery list and it'll load, and then you pull up the Target and they bring it out to your car. So we are seeing major innovation on that front happening quite rapidly. So is there, I guess, have you done any thinking about what marketing looks like in a world where no one wants to page through your website in order to find the thing they want to buy? They just want the robot to do that for them. And how do you position your brand in that world versus any other brand? Because they're not seeing your brand at all until they get the packaging in the house. They might not even know which brand they bought.
Yeah. There's so many good things there, Dustin, that I could jump into. Really cool example, that Target example that you gave through an agentic browser. I think it was when GPT-5 first released their quote-unquote agent mode, OpenAI doing so. And one of their standard prompts was, would you like me to, like their tutorial prompts was, would you like me to go to Target.com, find a Lego set for a 7-year-old, because that was one of the filtering options on the site, and then add it to your cart. And so when you're talking about brand building and expertise and things like that, OpenAI was pushing that technology, but I think Target's a really good case study of, they decided, okay, if this is going to be a consumer behavior, then why don't we partner and make this an elevated experience? And so they created that partnership in order to do that. So it's less about being agent mode, and now it's Target plus AI is a good thing and a beneficial thing. And I wouldn't call that a risk for somebody that works in marketing and advertising. I think it's just a shift of how does the consumer behavior, how's that narrative playing out? And that's why we have a research and insights team that really understands user personas, understands audience segments, understands buying behavior, travel behavior, It's something that we identified really early in the travel and tourism industry, so less on consumer purchasing, but more on some of the first benefits of large language models was their ability to find flight pricing and their ability to create itineraries for vacations and helping that travel experience or those travel planners. And as a group that does a lot of travel and tourism marketing, we want to talk specifically to the trip planner, whether that's the young mother with the family or whether that's a daughter or a son putting together a trip for their parents. Like, we need to figure out who that travel planner is and then where they perform those actions. And large language models is a place that's happening now. And so I think that's really fascinating. That's a really great example, but also kudos to big brands on getting ahead of it.
Yeah, I saw that Target published their numbers as well, their quarterly numbers, and their overall sales are down something like a point, but their online shopping is up double that. And so I think we're going to see additional changes in that direction. One of the theories that I have, and maybe you can validate this, is that brand is going to actually be more important in the new world, because what we're seeing is the value, as the cost of content comes down, the value of trust is going up, because you don't know what my brother has these stories. He has this almost hilariously cursed ability to order something off online and it comes tiny. So no matter what he orders, he gets a miniature version of it from Amazon and he pays full price. And I feel like we're just going to see more miniature versions of everything as people are able to just flood the market with their own e-commerce websites and so on. You might have to go to your big brand or to your trusted company in order to make sure that what arrives on your doorstep is what you're actually paying for.
So you don't end up with miniature everything.
Miniature everything.
Really
Maybe this is just the universe telling him he needs to lose weight, and he needs to get miniature himself in order to. But I feel like he got like a doormat that was like this big. It was like, I'm like, but in the pictures it looks amazing. It's in front of a door. Was that a door?
It was in front of a doggy door.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel that's a hilarious example, but I feel like as content, the value of content generation gets easier and easier for average people to produce average content, the people producing the higher end, higher quality content, and overall the brands that are delivering better products are going to become more valuable, because you're going to be in a sea of garbage effectively. And we just talked about the ad economy in the last episode and how effectively you can't, for example, pull a recipe off of a website without going through 20 pages about how your grandmother's cookies were smelled and baked. And so a lot of that dross, I think, is going to go away. And I think the consumers legitimately are driving to have AI help with those experiences, because of we haven't done an amazing job as stewards of technology making these things super easy for people to use and interact with. And I think so the brands that really do that well are going to stand out. That's my theory. You're much more into branding, so I'd love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, and I could have a really quick answer on that, but I think you were leading me right to the answer, Dustin, and that's, sure, there's the argument that could be made that marketing or even development coding is now so entry level because you have generative AI that can do this for you, but it's going to just start differentiating the difference between good and great. It can, like, sure, it helps from bad to good, but the good to great that's where we like to live. And brands that understand that they want to be above the term AI slop, or be above very generalistic type of approaches that most generative AI produces for you, that's the folks that would want to work with somebody like a Lawrence Schiller. Because again, our brand promises that we're going to outthink and we're going to outdo. And so sure, we'll leverage the same technology that everyone else can effectively buy or have for free, but we're going to differentiate it in a way that it's telling a story that's different. It's going to elevate the brand in a way that no piece of technology can. So that concerns us a little bit less, because like you said, we want to work with folks that, again, want to go from good to great and not just nothing to something.
Yeah, interesting. Speaking of going from something to something else, I'd just love to hear, if you put your future-looking goggles on, where do you see AI taking us in the next, I don't know, couple of years? Is there something you're waiting for or keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of things. I've been fairly outspoken at our agency of the promise of fully agentic AI right now and the status of that. Like, where is that right now in terms of technology and capability and access and performance? There's a lot of people and agencies and groups and companies talking that they're fully automated, they're fully agentic. Maybe they know something that a lot of us don't, but I think that's very challenging to create a company that is fully agentic in that way. And so then you're having everyone else work on completely different types of projects and thought processes. And the promise of fully agentic's future, albeit I think it's something that can happen. We've just decided that we have a lot of workflows. We have a lot of processes, we call them critical paths, that have agents involved. So at certain steps, we need to leverage AI in order to do some secondary research or pull in a little bit of high level data or analyze something or grab data and then transfer it in those situations. But the idea that you're going to build an entire department or an entire process solely on that is something that I don't feel like we're at right now, and it could be in the future. But we like where it's at right now. I'll tell you that. You guys, I think you've mentioned that you guys use the term human in the loop. The industry typically does. But that's also a peacekeeping thing that makes everybody feel a little bit better, that there is a check, there is a balance as a part of this process. And as we transition to fully agentic AI, that's a piece that people have to think more critically about of what's the trade-off? What's the risk tolerance if you're going to do that? And at the end of the day, will the client ultimately benefit? So agentic AI is a big thing for me, Andy, that I think I'd like to keep my eye on. And then probably what Dustin was talking about, this idea of big brands creating partnerships with AI companies. Like, AI is such a rich industry. You see the crazy numbers. They seem made up numbers when you hear about NVIDIA's numbers and you hear about OpenAI's numbers and the valuations of these companies. And it's a prime opportunity for big brands to make big decisions and collaborate and partner. And right now we're all riding that wave. For a while, you had to pick your flavor of generative AI. Are you a Anthropic Claude person? Are you a Google Gemini person? Are you an OpenAI? Are you Microsoft Copilot? And then now you look at all of these models are now using each other's models in order to create an elevated product. And so that whole centralization of technology coming together, I think, is interesting. And it's easy to make mistakes about investments. AI is really expensive when you're trying to do it at a very large scale. And so if you make a wrong decision right now, and then somebody sells, gets acquired, collaborates, partners, whatever, you could be with an inefficient or a less than performant AI position. So that's nerdy, but...
No, I like that. And one of the things that's great about large language models is their affordability. It used to be you had to get data, you had to get training sets, you had to train yourself, which took not only a ton of expertise from people who are hard to find, but just cost millions of dollars. And that was like, if you want to do AI, that's what it cost you. Now with LLMs, for a couple bucks, you can get valuable AI workflows put together. And seeing those grow into agents, is something exciting to look forward to.
Just one more thing I'm excited about is it's the reverse of something that kind of gives me some heartburn right now, and that's AI in present day with a lot of folks that aren't like us on the call. That we spend a majority of our day discussing AI. To folks that have a little bit less of a stake in that game, AI is just magic speak. You have a problem and you say, AI can do that. And you have something else and you say, oh, AI can do that. And there's a lot of steps, as we know, in order to make that actually achievable. And so I'm looking forward to, as we continue to learn as a society, that we're going to have a deeper understanding of what AI is and how it works as a collective public as a whole. And I think that's going to be great because right now, there's a lot of explanation of AI capability. Like you said, how expensive are LLMs. I think the minute that you have to start describing tokenization and how a response works and how much that will cost, that gets really nitty gritty and gross. And it's hard for people to understand when most people think AI will just give us what we need. And in reality, there's a lot of steps to figure that out. But Dustin, I'm curious to hear about your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest challenges I have bringing this into leadership teams, in particular, we often we're being brought in cold to a company that is very little AI adoption, and to solve specific problems. And the real issue is how to find where the rubber meets the road. Like, the tires are floating a mile off the road in a lot of these cases. You have people that think we need to put some AI in our business in order to be competitive. But the real challenge for me has been explaining how to connect the concept of AI with the practice of AI, and the fact that AI is not a silver bullet. You have to do engineering. That's why companies like ours, I think, are positioned to help. Is we're a traditional engineering company. We've built things for almost 20 years, so we know that the first result is not the result for which to judge the project. The first result is the prototype, and now you iterate until you get the quality answer that you can rely on. And I think that's what we're seeing. You demystifying and demagicking AI is an important thing that we have to be doing as technologists for your average consumer, because the idea that it can solve the problem, is any problem, is exciting. And I think for most business problems, there's a role for AI. But on the same side, there's this fear, because if you think this thing is magic, you also think, I'm not a wizard, I'm not a magician, I can't do this. How do I even get started wrapping my head around there's this impedance between the idea that it's super capable and the idea that it's easy to get started. And the more capable you observe the technology, the more you think it's difficult to get started. And one of the things I was talking about at a talk yesterday is, this is the most human technology we've ever invented. And you literally can talk to it. And that's, I think, in a lot of ways what the innovation is. But yet you have people that are afraid of it because they think, what if I get this wrong? What if it gives bad results? And I think that's where people like us come in and say, yeah, here's how you safeguard yourself against the very real things that can go wrong. And I think that's a really good point. And as AI becomes more prevalent, it's hard to imagine it being more endemic to society than it already is. But I think there's a difference between this thing is happening and this thing is here. And early in any technology adoption arc, it felt a lot like us technologists were doing this to you. And at some point, people stood up and started using it, and it just became the air everyone breathes and the water everyone swims in. And I'm looking forward to that moment. Although I will say, with an adoption arc, it's amazing. You ask people, how many people are using this on a weekly basis at a minimum, and it's almost everybody in the room. And that's never been any of these technologies. And yet simultaneously, there's this huge adoption divide between that and operationalizing the technology. And
Exactly.
I think it's a very interesting moment to be a human. And I think my hope is that this leads us to more humans, more humanity in our businesses, because we're spending less time talking to spreadsheets. Crystal ball. My crystal ball is murky. It's been murky for about 2 years.
Absolutely.
All right. I think here's a little thing I want to try now, because we spent a fair while talking with you, and I know you got other things to do with your day. But how about we do a quick speed round, and totally springing this on Dustin, so he has about the next 7 seconds to think up some one-word answer questions that he can ask you. I have a few, so I'll just throw them out there, and then Travis, give me your immediate response. Okay, here we go. Gemini, OpenAI, or Claude?
Claude.
Okay. MCP or RAG?
MCP.
Oh, nice. Okay. Edge, Dia, or Atlas?
Atlas, even though I already said Claude, but whatever, Atlas.
Oh, okay. Okay. AI is going to take my job, or AI is going to transform my job?
It's going to transform. You already know the answer. It's going to transform.
All right, Dustin, you had 7 seconds. You got one?
Oh, man. So junior marketing roles will exist in 2 years or not?
Junior marketing roles, yes. Internships, sorry, students, not sure.
Interesting.
AI is in a hype bubble, or this real?
It's in a small hype bubble. It's in your brother-sized hype bubble, a mini hype bubble.
He ordered the hype bubble off Amazon.
Yeah, he ordered the hype bubble. Only because the amount of misinformation that's out there, that inflates the part of it, but at the core, there's some real substance.
Frontier model vendors like OpenAI, good stewards or bad stewards of the technology?
I'm going to say good for now, although we're going to Everyone's going to have to start wearing suits and going in front of Congress, just like Zuckerberg and everyone else. So it's going to it's going to start being real shady here soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're getting the real answers. Good round, Andy,
right?
Because this is the real stuff.
Dustin doesn't show up to meetings, so we just make decisions without him. I guess maybe I should have told him.
I'm gonna have AI start attending my meetings. I'm gonna.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
That will probably enjoy AI, Dustin.
Save the podcast too of students becoming discouraged. Internships are a great method to figure out a talent pipeline. That's how we find the next brightest talent that we can have. I was speaking more towards some of the projects that we have you do aren't the sexiest projects. So we'll be the first to say that sometimes you're doing a lot of data management. And so that's why I said my answer about the junior staff, the intern, etc.
I think what it means is those first jobs people have may be more meaningful because we can't just pawn off drudge things. We don't have time to help someone get started. We already have AI doing those drudge tasks. And so those first things I get to do may actually be substantial pieces of work. Trying to see both sides of the coin here.
When I talk to people in higher education, this is one of the other things that I stress is education is going to need to change. And I feel like it hasn't done an amazing job keeping up with modern technology as it is. And AI is coming in and just really highlighting the gap between graduates and entry-level workers, and there's been a widening gap for a long time.
I just saw the coolest story about education and AI. Is a professor, traditionally they stand up and lecture for an hour and you just sit there and take it. And students historically don't really like lectures. It's pretty rare that they find a lecturer who really is engaging. And so what this prof did is he used AI to take his notes and his lecture recording and turn it into a podcast and I don't know, like a graphic novel and like other things. And basically he found that AI could do that pretty reliable because the content was there from him already. And the students love it because now they could consume that education in the medium that spoke to them best.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a professor here at the U of M I was speaking with about this and talking about AI essays. And teachers need to change how they teach. And one of the things he said is all of his stuff is now live demonstrations, it's group projects, it's things where there's a Q&A period where if you don't know the content, the value of the essay has dropped dramatically, but if I get you in front of an audience and I ask you a hard question and you don't know the answer, it's pretty obvious you didn't do the work. And so there are ways to transition this, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing the creativity we're going to get out of the sort of the public sector education side of things to solve some of these gaps, and I think ultimately we might end up with more creative, more valuable people. And those young people, as you said, Travis, that you bring into your business, they're the next generation of the business. And oftentimes they're super sharp, they're super creative. And then we're like, okay, now go get the coffee. Now figure out how to build this slideshow that three people are going to see. And then maybe review the cover letter for this RFP we're going to do. Not the RFP, but the cover letter, because that's the level you're at. Hopefully we can now engage these people at a level that is more rewarding for everyone.
Sure. And as we look at a marketing and advertising agency too, this has come up a few times in my head as we've talked about all these different topics. But for a marketing and advertising agency such as ourselves, we're full service, like I said, so that's very interdisciplinary. We have so many different areas, I said disciplines, etc. My goal for our agency is that each one of our folks is an AI generalist. And there's a lot of glossary definitions of what an AI generalist is. Because an agency as a whole, we go deep into each of our departments or our disciplines, but we like to see the whole picture and understand how things connect across. That's why it's my professional and personal passion to try and get everyone to a level that you're an AI generalist that can understand how AI is ubiquitous across, as opposed to being a heavy data, all you're doing is understanding how AI is affecting your single sliver of this overall pie. So I think, again, to bring that to the student and the talent in the next generation, becoming an AI generalist as you enter the workforce, as you look at different organizations, that's what's going to set you apart.
Yeah, it's a key work skill.
Yeah, it's the new Google search skill. So we used to joke that using Stack Overflow in Google was like 70% of the software engineering job, because you were always trying to solve a problem. And when Google first started, we saw there was this huge gap between people who could find information on the internet and people who couldn't. And it really allowed you to be a much more versatile generalist engineer, because someone like Andy can go and enter a context that he's never been in, building something he's never seen before, and in 10 minutes he can become qualitative, not an expert, but good enough to get the job done well.
And muddle my way through.
And muddle his way through. Whereas pre Google, we used to have a literal box,
the
like
MSDN publication every year
that
from
you'd
Microsoft.
have to like dig through to find the answer. And but the people who never got out of that box of books thinking became rather poor engineers outside of their particular narrow niche. There was no versatility. And so I think we're going to see the same thing with LLMs, where the people that know how to prompt and know how to get good results out of it, know where to use it, are just going to excel over anyone else.
Yeah. And to put a period on that sentence, Dustin, it would be, when I say AI generalist, people, for the listening audience, people would think, okay, that's a ChatGPT license, and then I can just have access to it, right? And an AI generalist is not access to AI. It is someone that effectively knows how to string together a number of different capabilities within these tools for it to be performant, for it to be an elevated solution. If that's custom artifacts or custom GPTs, or it's stringing together a series of prompting strategies to arrive at the solution. It's not single sentence prompting. That's not AI generalism. It's an actual skill that requires a lot of training in order to do.
Yeah. Okay. So before we wrap this up, I'd love to ask, or maybe since this is our first guest, I'm going to start a tradition of asking, is there anything we should have asked you?
Oh, that's a great question. You asked about a client perspective. You asked what we're doing internally. I think I would just like to drive the point home that you have to continue to have backing and support across your entire group or organization or agency. I can't stress enough that this AI and innovation does not happen in one single department or in a vacuum in one area. It's not the project or the responsibility of a single team. I think organizations are going to continue to be fractured and fall apart if that's their approach moving forward. And from what I've learned in the last 2 to 3 years of this being my focus, is that you have to have some adoption across the board in order to do it. So that would just be something I wanted to make sure that if you took one thing away from, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a department head, whether you're even just a project lead on something, you need to ask for that. That's absolutely essential. And outside of that, I don't know, you asked me about my favorite tools. I love talking tools. We're an agency that we mapped it out as a part of our AI process, is what tooling do we have right now in our marketing technology stack, and then what is AI enabled. So which of these tools have AI offerings or products? And one, that's a staggering amount. But two, we learned that we have hundreds. Eventually, we might have thousands of tools, which is crazy for a small agency of ourselves. But when you think about any certain person's workflow, they use a number of different things. And no offense to writers, because it's an art and that's a awesome profession. But I thought they probably had Microsoft Word and ChatGPT and maybe a few other things. And no, there was a very sophisticated technology stack for them to do research and look up keywords and understand concepts and ideas and test ideas and look at trends. There's a lot of technology out there, and you need conversations like this to figure out which technology is going to move us forward.
Cool.
Yeah,
well,
awesome.
Thanks so much, Travis. This is amazing. I can't believe the time has gone by so fast. Thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure being on your guys' podcast. I look forward to the future where we continue to do more AI-enabled work. We have a lot of exciting things that hopefully your listeners will see here as we launch it in a few months.
Well, that's our episode for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please give us feedback at modernlogic.io/podcast. Tell us what you want to see, what you liked, what you didn't like, and we'll go from there. If you need help implementing AI in your business, either bringing it in from thought leadership or automating tasks you just hate doing, you can reach out modernlogic.io, or you can reach out directly to info@modernlogic.io via email.
We'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Bye now.